Every person watching this video has done it. Some of you did it this week. Some of you today. Yet almost nobody knows why it exists. Not blinking. Not breathing. Crying. Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room. Someone quietly wipes away a single tear. Nothing else changes. No one says a word. Yet almost instantly, the atmosphere feels different. Conversations slow. Heads turn. People pay attention. Something invisible has suddenly become impossible to ignore. Here's the mystery. A smile can be fake. A laugh can be forced. Words can be carefully chosen. But genuine emotional tears are different. They bypass logic and speak directly to the human brain. Now consider something even stranger. Every day, millions of animals produce tears. Dogs do. Cats do. Birds do. Even crocodiles keep their eyes moist with tears. But according to current scientific evidence, humans are the only species known to shed tears because of emotion alone. That raises an extraordinary question. Why would evolution create a behavior that seems to make us weaker? When you cry, your vision becomes blurry. Your breathing loses its rhythm. Your body becomes less prepared to fight or escape. In nature, those disadvantages should have disappeared long ago. Evolution rarely rewards vulnerability. It usually removes it. So why has emotional crying survived for hundreds of thousands of years? The answer overturns one of the biggest misconceptions about being human. Tears were never designed to show weakness. They evolved to reveal something far more valuable. Connection. Long before humans built cities, long before the first civilizations, long before anyone carved words in a stone, our ancestors had already developed a remarkable way to communicate experiences that language couldn't yet express. Fear, loss, relief, love, grief, hope. A single tear could deliver all of those messages without a single spoken word. Even today, your brain responds to another person's tears before you're consciously aware of it. Your attention shifts. Your emotions change. Areas involved in empathy become more active. Without thinking, you begin asking one silent question. Is this person okay? That automatic response isn't an accident. It's the product of millions of years of evolution shaping one of humanity's greatest survival tools. Not sharper claws, not stronger muscles, not faster legs. Our ability to understand each other. But the story becomes even more astonishing. The secret behind emotional tears doesn't begin with adults. It begins with a newborn baby taking its very first breath. It continues through prehistoric hunter-gatherers struggling to survive. It reaches into the chemistry of the human brain, and it reveals why one of the behaviors many people consider a sign of weakness may actually be one of the greatest evolutionary advantages our species has ever developed. By the end of this documentary, you won't see tears as simple drops of water. You'll see them for what they truly are. One of the oldest languages ever spoken by the human brain. And perhaps one of the hidden reasons humanity changed the world. Close your eyes for a second and picture this. A chef slice onion. Within moments, tears begin running down their face. Across town, a firefighter walks through thick smoke. His eyes start watering too. Meanwhile, in a quiet hospital room, someone hears life-changing news, and tears slowly roll down their cheeks. From the outside, all three scenes look almost identical. Water leaves the eyes. Vision blurs. Faces change. Yet inside the human body, three completely different biological stories are unfolding. That's because not all tears are created equal. In fact, every tear you've ever shed belongs to one of three remarkable categories. The first type works so quietly that most people never realize it exists. They're called basal tears. Right now, even as you're watching this documentary, your eyes are producing them. Every blink spreads a microscopic layer of moisture across the surface of your eye, keeping it smooth, clear, and protected. Without these invisible tears, your vision would quickly become painful. Dust would cling to your eyes. Tiny scratches would accumulate. Eventually, something as simple as opening your eyelids would hurt. Think of basal tears as your eye's full-time maintenance crew. They never ask for attention. They simply keep working every second of your life. The second type appears only when danger arrives. Imagine chopping onions, smoke drifting into your face, a gust of sand blowing across a beach. Your eyes instantly recognize the threat. Within seconds, special glands release a flood of reflex tears designed to wash away whatever doesn't belong there. It's one of your body's fastest defense systems. No thinking, no decision, just automatic protection. This kind of crying isn't unique to humans. Dogs produce reflex tears. Cats produce them. Birds do too. Even reptiles rely on them to keep their eyes healthy. Across the animal kingdom, these tears serve the same purpose. Protect the eye. Preserve vision. Keep the animal alive. If tears stopped there, the story would be simple. But evolution had something far more extraordinary in mind, because humans developed a third kind of tear, one that begins nowhere near the eye. It begins inside the brain. No smoke enters your face. No dust touches your eyelids. Nothing physically harms your eyes. Instead, a memory returns. A loved one says goodbye. A child takes their very first step. A soldier finally comes home. A parent hears a baby's first cry. Suddenly, tears appear, not because your eyes need protection, but because your emotions have become too powerful to remain invisible. That single fact has fascinated scientists for decades. How can emotion inside the brain trigger glands beside the eyes? The answer reveals just how deeply connected the human body really is. Everything begins inside a small region known as the amygdala, often called the brain's emotional alarm system. It constantly monitors everything you experience: joy, fear, shock, love, loss, relief. The instant an emotion becomes overwhelming, the amygdala sends signals deeper into the brain. The hypothalamus joins the process. The autonomic nervous system responds. Your breathing changes. Your heartbeat shifts. Muscles around your face tighten. Your throat forms the familiar lump that millions of people recognize. Only then do the tear glands receive their instructions. Notice what just happened. An invisible feeling became visible. Not through words, not through actions, but through biology itself. Researchers have even discovered that emotional tears differ chemically from the tears produced by onions or smoke. They contain different concentrations of hormones, proteins, and naturally occurring molecules. Scientists are still investigating exactly why those differences exist, but one conclusion is already clear. Emotional crying is not an accident. It is an incredibly sophisticated biological process involving the brain, nervous system, hormones, facial muscles, and tear glands working together with astonishing precision. Which leads to an even bigger mystery. If emotional tears require so much energy, if they blur vision, if they make us appear vulnerable, why would natural selection preserve such a complicated behavior for hundreds of thousands of years? The answer has almost nothing to do with the person who is crying. It has everything to do with the people who are watching. And that's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Imagine standing on the African savanna 200,000 years ago. The sun has almost disappeared. Cold air begins replacing the afternoon heat. Somewhere beyond the tall grass, a lion is watching. Nearby, your small tribe prepares for another dangerous night. Food is limited. Children huddle beside the fire. Every pair of hands matters. Now, imagine one member of the group suddenly breaks down in tears. At first, it makes no sense. Blurred vision makes spotting predators harder. Shaking hands make using tools more difficult. Unsteady breathing wastes precious energy. Everything about crying appears to reduce the chances of survival. If evolution rewards strength, why didn't it eliminate emotional tears? The answer begins with a truth that transformed our entire species. Humans were never designed to survive alone. A leopard depends on speed. A bear relies on strength. An eagle dominates the sky. But remove a human from their community thousands of years ago, their chances of survival drop dramatically. Our greatest evolutionary advantage wasn't our intelligence alone. It was cooperation. Long before governments existed, Long before civilization, groups of early humans discovered something extraordinary. Working together produced better results than working alone. A hunting party could bring down animals far larger than any individual hunter. Several adults could protect children more effectively than one exhausted parent. Knowledge passed from one generation to another instead of disappearing with every death. Cooperation became humanity's hidden superpower. Yet cooperation required something else. Trust. Without trust, groups fall apart. Without trust, people stop sharing food. Without trust, parents receive no help raising children. Without trust, civilization never begins. So evolution faced an entirely new challenge. How could one human instantly communicate genuine emotional distress to another? Words didn't exist yet. Writing wouldn't appear for hundreds of thousands of years. Even complex language was still developing. Nature needed something faster, something impossible to ignore, something difficult to fake. That's where tears entered the story. Unlike speech, emotional crying broadcasts information immediately. No explanation is necessary. The moment tears appear, everyone nearby understands one thing. Something important has happened. Perhaps someone has died. Perhaps danger has passed. Perhaps overwhelming fear has taken control. Perhaps unbearable relief has arrived after surviving a life-threatening event. The exact reason may differ, but the message remains unmistakable. Pay attention. Modern neuroscience suggests our brains are remarkably sensitive to that signal. When people witness genuine emotional tears, regions involved in empathy, emotional understanding, and social processing become more active. Attention shifts almost automatically. Aggressive behavior often decreases. Helping behavior becomes more likely. It's as though the human brain carries an ancient instruction written deep within its circuitry. Someone is suffering. Respond. Pause for a moment and think about your own life. Have you ever seen a complete stranger crying in public? Perhaps at an airport, outside a hospital, or sitting quietly on a park bench. Even without knowing their story, you probably looked twice. Maybe you wondered if they were okay. Maybe you felt uncomfortable walking away. That reaction wasn't learned from a textbook. It wasn't taught in school. It emerged from biological systems shaped across countless generations. Your brain recognized one of humanity's oldest distress signals. Scientists sometimes describe this as social bonding in action. Groups that cared for injured, frightened, or grieving members often remain stronger than groups that abandon them. Support increased survival. Survival strengthened communities. Communities built civilizations. Ironically, one of humanity's greatest evolutionary strengths may have begun with the willingness to reveal weakness. But emotional crying wasn't only about adults. Its most important role appeared much earlier. Long before friendships, long before romance, long before anyone learned to speak. It began with the smallest and most vulnerable humans of all, newborn babies. And without them, our species might never have survived. Listen carefully to the sound of a newborn baby. Before that child learns a single word, before recognizing a mother's face, before taking a first step, one ability already works perfectly: crying. It may seem ordinary today, but from an evolutionary perspective, it was nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine being born 100,000 years ago. There are no hospitals, no incubators, no medicine, no emergency services. Only a small group of hunter-gatherers struggling to survive another day. For a newborn, the world is incredibly dangerous. Unlike baby horses that stand within hours, or sea turtles that instinctively crawl toward the ocean, human babies arrive almost completely helpless. They cannot walk. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot defend themselves. They cannot even regulate their own body temperature efficiently. In reality, a human infant depends on adults for years longer than almost any other mammal on Earth. That created a serious evolutionary problem. How could such a vulnerable species possibly survive? Nature's answer wasn't sharper teeth. It wasn't stronger muscles. It was communication. The moment a baby feels cold, hungry, frightened, or separated from its caregiver, A cry erupts. Instantly, something extraordinary happens inside every nearby adult. Heads turn. Attention locks onto the sound. The body prepares to respond. Modern brain scans reveal that an infant's cry activates regions involved in attention, empathy, emotional processing, and caregiving almost immediately. Heart rate changes. Stress hormones rise. Parents often describe the experience as impossible to ignore. That isn't simply love. It's biology operating exactly as evolution intended. Across thousands of generations, adults who responded quickly to crying infants helped more children survive. Those children eventually became parents themselves. Little by little, natural selection strengthened both sides of the relationship. Babies became highly effective at demanding attention. Adults became highly sensitive to answering that call. Together, they formed one of the strongest survival partnerships in nature. Yet the story doesn't end there. Here's where things become truly fascinating. Most animals eventually outgrow their distress signals. As they mature, those early cries disappear. Humans followed a different path. We never completely abandoned them. Instead, our brains transformed infant communication into adult communication. Think about your own life. Have you ever cried after finally seeing someone you thought you'd never meet again? Perhaps after years apart. Perhaps after returning safely from danger. Maybe you cried while holding your child for the first time, or standing beside someone during their final moments. None of those tears asked for food. None asked for warmth. None asked to be carried. Instead, they communicated something much deeper. This moment matters. That's the remarkable transformation. The same biological system that once protected helpless infants eventually evolved into one of humanity's most powerful emotional languages. Words can explain events. Tears reveal significance. Imagine telling someone, "I miss you." Now imagine saying nothing at all while tears quietly fill your eyes. The message changes completely. One speaks to the mind. The other reaches the heart. Perhaps that's why emotional crying often strengthens relationships instead of weakening them. When people witness genuine vulnerability, trust frequently grows stronger. Families become closer. Friendships deepen. Communities unite. Throughout history, shared grief has brought entire societies together after tragedy. Shared joy has united crowds during moments of celebration. Shared tears have strengthened bonds that logic alone could never create. Scientists continue investigating another intriguing possibility. Unlike reflex tears caused by onions or smoke, emotional tears contain different concentrations of hormones, proteins, and naturally occurring chemicals. Researchers are still exploring whether these substances play a direct role in emotional recovery or social communication. The complete answer remains one of neuroscience's most fascinating mysteries. What researchers do know is this. Emotional crying is one of the most complex behaviors the human brain produces. It recruits multiple brain regions. It involves the autonomic nervous system. It influences breathing, heart rate, facial muscles, hormones, behavior, social interaction. Few human behaviors require so many systems working together with such extraordinary precision, which makes one conclusion increasingly difficult to ignore. Emotional tears were never an evolutionary accident. They survived because they solved a problem that no other signal could solve. They transformed invisible emotions into visible information. They encouraged empathy. They strengthened cooperation. They helped fragile families become resilient communities. And resilient communities eventually became civilizations. Perhaps that's why tears continue to move us today. Not because they're signs of weakness, but because they're echoes of an ancient survival strategy still written into every human brain. Every tear carries two stories at once. One belongs to the person crying. The other belongs to our species. A story stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, to a time when the smallest drops of water may have helped shape the future of humanity itself. Think back to the question we asked at the very beginning. Why would evolution preserve something that seems to make us weaker? After all, tears blur our vision. They interrupt our breathing. They expose our emotions. In the wild, Every one of those things appears to reduce the chances of survival. Yet emotional crying never disappeared. Instead, it survived every ice age, every migration, every civilization, every generation that came before us. Now we know why. Because tears were never about weakness. They were about connection. Long before humans built the first villages, long before kings ruled kingdoms, long before anyone carved symbols into stone, our ancestors had already mastered a language that required no vocabulary at all. One tear could say, "I'm frightened. I'm grieving. I'm overwhelmed. I finally made it home." No spoken sentence could communicate those emotions with the same honesty. Perhaps that's why tears still affect us so deeply today. The moment we see another person cry, something ancient awakens inside our own minds. We pause. We look closer. We wonder what happened. We feel an urge to comfort someone we may have never met before. That instinct isn't random. It's one of the oldest survival programs ever written into the human brain. For hundreds of thousands of years, communities that responded to vulnerability became stronger than communities that ignored it. Families stayed together. Children survived. Trust grew. Cooperation flourished. Eventually, those same qualities helped build the civilizations we live in today. It's a remarkable thought. The behavior many people hide, the behavior many are embarrassed by, may actually be one of the greatest reasons humanity succeeded. Because our species didn't rise to the top of the natural world through strength alone. We succeeded because we understood one another. We cared for one another. We recognized pain before words could describe it. And tears became one of evolution's most extraordinary inventions. So the next time your eyes begin to fill with tears, don't think of them as a malfunction. Don't mistake them for failure. Instead, remember what they truly are. They're the visible signature of millions of years of evolution. A message carried through generations. A biological language older than every nation, older than every religion, older than every alphabet. A language that quietly reminds us that being human has never meant standing alone. It has always meant standing together. And perhaps it's the most beautiful secret hidden inside every tear. It isn't simply water falling from your eyes. It's humanity remembering how to care. If one ordinary tear can hide millions of years of human evolution, imagine how many other everyday mysteries are quietly shaping your life without you ever noticing. In the next documentary, we'll uncover another hidden story about the human body, the brain, and the incredible journey that made us who we are. Until then, stay curious. Because the greatest mysteries aren't always found in distant galaxies or ancient ruins. Sometimes, they're already looking back at you in the mirror.